And Woody likes the crooked cock.
School being like, man, how many times can I do this in a day? And after like a little while, it's computer duster.
Just freezing cold Freon going.
But anyway, that was a fun.
So yeah, check out Blue Chew.
Well, that was more of a sad
Good
video.
stuff.
Yeah, check
It
out Blue Chew.
absolutely
It's
works.
a hard
It's
day.
amazing. Yeah. And again, always recommend it to Tadalafil. I've tried both, and maybe some people you prefer the Viagra, but I do not.
Yeah,
we practice
awesome,
what we
man.
preach. Yeah.
Oh.
So what is a trend body? I've seen a couple of your videos and you talk about what people are on and you're like, this guy has a stereotypical trend body. And I'm like, desirable? Like what is trend? What Trenable? How close did I come?
No, it's a Trenbolone.
Okay.
So basically this is like, it's considered one of the most androgenic of the steroids. So androgenic meaning like masculinizing essentially. So the more androgenic, typically the more like dry, grainy, and sort of like more tightly to in some situations, like Trenbolone has a high affinity to bind to androgen receptors. So like there's this theory that because there's a denser amount of androgen receptors in the traps as well as the delts, that people who have like overly developed traps and delts relative to the rest of their body are probably abusing Tren in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And typically it's really obvious in individuals that don't have good bodybuilding genetics because that one body part will overdevelop and then the rest of it will lag like significantly behind.
What are good bodybuilding genetics? Like what are some things we can
like
tell?
Anybody on the Mr. Olympia stage, you'll see they have every body part is massive, first of all, obviously, but there's no like obviously everyone has their genetic lagging thing. Some people have like shitty calves, some people have shitty whatever, but it's like just the way the muscle is, it's like round as opposed to like it's like getting big is one thing, but then having an aesthetic muscle is another. It's hard to, it's a objective.
Like your muscle insertions, is that what that's called?
Yeah. Like it's sort of an individual question too, right? Because what looks good to you, to another guy, you might be like, that looks like shit. Like a lot of people on my channel, they're in the fitness industry niche, so that's why they're so like hypercritical of physiques, and that's also sort of why I'm like, I try to like bridge the gap between still being in the fitness industry because that's where a lot of my followers are from, as well as having the objective, perspective of somebody who's just, I'm a guy who goes to the gym sometimes. So the trend look is more so obvious in somebody who has not good muscle building genetics and has unproportionally developed traps and delts compared to the rest of them, and has like a very grainy, like androgenic type look. It's kind of hard to explain, but typically the flagship marker is like, like if you look at Hugh Jackman, you'll note his physique is like crazy vascular, really like protruding, almost 3D delts. The traps are much more developed relative to his first couple of rolls, and he's obviously gained muscle everywhere, but you look at his back or his arms or any other body part on him, and it's just like complete lack of development relative to his traps.
What movie was that in? Just so I could see.
Wolverine.
Yeah, like all the Wolverines from like 1 to the last one.
Oh,
as far as the one that he
does not help me. I don't know how many.
You mean like the one where he?
Had the one where you're saying like, oh, his delts and his traps were huge and his arms look weird. Like,
let me pull.
I'd like to see an example of that.
Huge.
Also, another thing: are there any single straight women at bodybuilding competitions, or just gay men and supportive wives?
No, it's it's kind of an interesting culture because it's like, just a whole bunch of fucking gearheads pretty much in a room, and they're all kind of like, women are getting with guys who are bodybuilders, and bodybuilders are getting with chicks who take gear and step on stage as physique competitors and whatnot, and they're mostly straight, I would say, to be honest. But
how's that picture? Does that fit what you're looking for?
Let's see. Yeah, exactly.
So I look at this guy. I see a massive chest, well done deltoids, even good biceps, but forearms that look like they belong to someone else almost.
His arms, to me,
his biceps and triceps are like, look at his left arm. Like, you should get some like girth from a large tricep over there. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like a stick relative to the rest of his upper torso.
Like, his chest is enormous.
Yeah, so you
Shoulders
see,
enormous, bicep, tricep.
Forearms are
much.
jumping out at me. Like, if you lifted that much weight, why didn't your forearms get some benefit?
yeah, that's part of it is genetic, but part of it is just like the way his body responds to hormones and the hormones in question, in my opinion. And that's sort of like, some of it is just sort of speculation at the end of the day, but it's based on, I've been through this, bodybuilding niche. I've been to competitions. I used to compete myself, and I've seen guys with shitty genetics who just like abuse the shit out of Tren, and they have this very obvious look where it's just like Hugh Jackman, when he peaked for that role, just like cranked, delts, traps, and then his arm is like a stick almost compared to the rest of them. So
Yeah, damn. Yeah, you have a very well-trained eye for this, obviously. I wouldn't have picked up on that.
yeah,
Obviously I wouldn't.
Is it when they look really dry, when it looks like there's not moist at all, and like when I look at his belts and
He
stuff,
looks
they're
thirsty.
He looks thirsty. Yeah, he looks like he's on a weight cut. Like the thing that I'm most familiar with is watching fighters pre-weight cut, mid-weight cut, at the weigh-ins, and then when they hydrate back up, for fight night. And he looks like he's mid-weight cut, and maybe like
he water depleted for that shot, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's his name? Who played Superman?
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill. Yeah, he water depleted for that bathtub scene in Witcher.
Yeah. And he was I don't know if it really did him any favors though, because he just wasn't lean enough for that to really be any helpful level of adding cuts to his physique, because he's just like a bulky dude and he just bulks up for most of his roles. I feel like to him, that's one of the individuals I thought was natural, just based on his progression is very, like, when he gains weight, it's like a parallel increase of fat and muscle. It's not like he just unproportionally gains lean size like Chris Hemsworth for Thor, where he just exploded and he still has visible abs by the end of it, even though he gained 30 pounds.
Maybe you haven't seen the latest Avengers. That's a joke.
Which
he was
I know
fat.
where he looks like shit in that. Yeah. But I mean for the other ones. Yeah. But like Henry Cavill, yeah, he like gains weight, but it's like a proportional increase in fat and muscle to get that bigger look. And it's obvious in the shirtless scenes where he takes off his shirt and he is big objectively, but it's like he's like a bear almost, he has that natural, like he's like 20% body fat almost. His face is just shredded though, because he's just genetically gifted in his fat distribution. So that's how I see it. And when he did the water deplete, he had like no separation in his abs at all. So
what action star I can tell is not doing anything he shouldn't be doing. He's not on anything. Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal makes like 6 movies a year, and he